Hey everybody, I'm Ben Higgins.
Hey, I'm Serena Pitt.
Hey, this is Blake Moynes.
Hi, this is Alana Milne.
Hey, I'm Lindsay Hamilton.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching The Bro Ceremony.
This is The Bros Ceremony.
Your journey's about to begin.
Recapping the week that was in Bachelor Nation and previewing what's to come in the next episode with some special betting odds.
Everyone can't wait to find out what happens next week.
Here are your hosts, Michael the Hound Dog Harrison and Adam Scully.
Will you accept this rose?
Will you accept this rose?
Will you accept this rose?
I want to thrive in what we're creating together. Hello and welcome inside episode 24 of the Bros Ceremony podcast. Adam Scully alongside Michael, the well-coiffed haired Hound Dog Harrison. How's that for a tongue twister? Michael, your hair, like
hair place.
I'm getting like a Steve Carell, Michael Scott in The Office sort of kind of vibe to that. Is that
I thought you were going to say Steve Carell and 40-year-old version, 40-year-old version vibes. I was going to be like, oh no.
Well, I mean, similar hair. Is there something you want to tell us, Michael?
No, not there's anything wrong with that at all. Of course, as I'm sure we'll talk about in this episode tonight with Mike, the Virgin, on the show. So from the last episode. So, we'll definitely have to talk about that guy.
Talk about segues there, Michael. You're just a brilliant seguer, if you will. But Katie's journey, like we predicted last week, has really accelerated, some real acceleration, if you will, where now there are only 4 men left. Before we discuss the 4 men left in in-depth detail, let's take a look back at last week's episode. And it sort of started off where the guys were all sitting around, 7 guys left. And Brendan, our boy from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, not Toronto, Canada, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, talking about, I'd love a one-on-one, I want, hometowns. And of course, when someone talks about wanting a one-on-one so much, they don't get the one-on-one.
No. It's sort of funny. I saw the memes going on online afterwards. He was wondering, like you said, he was wondering, why am I not being on a one-on-one? Like, why am I even here? What's the point? Blah, blah, blah. And the memes basically were like, yeah, Brendan, we're thinking the exact same thing. Why are you there? Type of thing, right? But I think he just got a bad edit. Like, I just think like he had more to offer to the table probably, and they just didn't really showcase him very much.
Well, it was sort of like what happened on episode 23, the Bro Ceremony, which you can find here on YouTube and Instagram, of course, where I couldn't remember his name. I was trying to Google his name while you were talking, waxing poetic about God knows what, but I was trying to find his name. I didn't know his name. And I mean, you would think we would have, given how he's from Toronto and we're shooting this, spoiler alert, in Toronto. But, Brendan doesn't get the date. Greg gets the date and gets the one-on-one date, and a bit of a Seattle sort of vibe or theme to this, if you will.
Well, I love that. Obviously, yeah. So she's from Seattle. They had threw the football around a little bit. Of course, makes me think Seattle. Hopefully, she's a Seahawks fan. That'd be awesome. That'd be incredible. Who knows? She never, unfortunately, referenced it. Maybe they weren't allowed to or something. Who knows? But I was like, oh, maybe they should go to a Seahawks game or something, because that would just be absolutely amazing. Now that you can actually go to Seattle games. Last year you couldn't, unfortunately.
That's right.
But yes, Greg was on that date and throwing fish around, and it was very, very much, like I said, a Seattle flavor to that date. But again, I think I've been saying this for the last few episodes, I believe, with Greg. Something's amiss to me. I just don't quite know. He's just, maybe is it because he's monotone or something? It's just, I don't know. Something seems off to me. But obviously, a lot of people think he's a favorite to win, and certainly he would probably maybe look like that, but something's amiss there, Adam.
Interesting. And, I found it funny, too, when they were throwing the fish, the Seattle Kraken, who announced their expansion draft roster last Wednesday, did a similar theme when they were announcing, ironically enough, the Toronto Maple Leafs pick, where it was someone in a market throwing to Kevin Weeks who caught the fish and said, we're picking Jared McCann. But I feel like, Greg was horrified at first trying to catch the fish because it was still moving. He thought it was still alive. But,
that was funny.
And Greg, there was the line of, I'm falling in love with you. We're starting to go down that road where, hometown's around the corner. But what really made me laugh, they have this great one-on-one, after dinner or whatever, and Greg gets the rose, and Katie says, I have one more surprise for you. So, at home we're thinking fireworks, probably, maybe some random musician no one's ever heard of to play a private show. But instead, the rain. That made me laugh with the rain coming down, and they're just drenched. And it's like the scene from The Notebook where they're just making out in the rain.
Yeah. Oh, they're gonna say making love.
No, they were not making love.
Yeah. No, that was definitely again a perfect Seattle flavor to that date. So that was a quite a good date. I will say it would be a lot of fun. I just, like I said, I don't know, something's rotten in the state of Denmark with Greg. It just, I don't know. He just sort of feels emotionless in his eyes or something. I don't know. Wow. Only time will tell, as you said, but back to quickly to our boy Brendan, unfortunately. It was just like, he went to see her, and that's when she was like, no, I'm not really feeling it. So it's just, it's kind of interesting that she kept him that long if she already had that in her mind. And then of course he left, and as often is the case, he left and he had no seatbelt on, which is, again, that's a recurring theme for people leaving in this episode with no seatbelt. So shocker that happened again.
I wish you could see the notes that I written down, because I did write no seatbelt down. But then something sort of weird where Brendan knocks on Blake's door and they hug it out, and, like you mentioned, the bad edit perhaps, or weird edit, that we didn't know they knew each other, but now stuff on social media, these guys are boys. They play hockey together. Brendan actually was the one who told Blake to go on the show last year with Claire. They were playing men's league hockey together. I'm looking forward to having both Blake and Brendan on at the same time on the Bros Ceremony podcast, where we can discuss this and we can talk about hockey and discuss talk about the edit, like how long they've actually known each other, because this is a bit of an unknown.
Absolutely. And we could also talk about how it is really, really stupid if anyone calls it ice hockey. They're morons. So we can hopefully discuss that with those two guys, because Brendan does seem like a nice guy. He just, for some reason, they didn't really, I don't know. I guess every season they like to do that. And I know they love to do that on Bachelor in Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
They always like to have one person on there where you're like, wait, who?
Yeah.
Like that it just seems like they have every character for every season. There's always that one guy or one woman, depending on the season, the show, that you're like, wait, who are they toward the end? So I guess he was one that fit that mold to them.
Speaking of Bachelor in Paradise, if my math is correct, 3 weeks tonight is when the debut of Bachelor in Paradise. It might be the Monday or the Tuesday, depending on when Katie's season ends, because we'll get to this shortly. The Men Tell All, I wasn't clear if that's tonight or if that's tomorrow night, if they're doing a back-to-back extravaganza. I wasn't quite sure, or maybe it'll be a half and half. I don't know.
I could look on my phone to see what my old PVR is telling me, but whilst we discuss other such good things that happen, let's go to the rose the paintings date. That was quite interesting to see. The roses were shaped in a rather interesting way.
They were shaped in a very interesting way. With the guys who were sort of having trouble keeping it together, if you will. There was some laughter, some giggles. Katie was having trouble keeping it together. But I mean, from there, the self-portrait of Katie, or portrait, I guess, of Katie. And, we saw some interesting ones. Justin is like a professional painter. That's something new. We didn't know that. That was kind of cool.
The rose that he painted was amazing.
Yeah.
But then the other stuff he painted on that was like, wait, what?
Do you think maybe like he was just doing that on purpose? Because like maybe to not show that he's, whoever a famous painter is that I can't think of right now, but like he didn't want to go too far overboard. And then he showed her something later that evening. Well,
yeah, they had the butterfly painting, and that I thought that was amazing looking. But I talked to a few people; they thought it was a terrible painting. I'm like, I mean, certainly for someone who is the least artistic person in the history of the universe.
Wow, that's a hot take.
That's obviously me, not you. Clearly, I thought that was amazing. I can't even imagine how you would say that wasn't good. But apparently, there's a faction of people who think that painting wasn't good. That's bizarre.
Faction, our word up of the day, brought to you by Volkswagen. Faction. Please define faction for the viewers at home.
Das Auto. But yeah, so there's some of the other guys, they had some interesting paintings. They were pretty good. And let's get to the Blake one.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of hot takes and sort of confusion, I think, online, especially regarding that painting. What were your thoughts on Blake's painting, Adam?
Oh, I mean, where to begin? So I think it was Katie or someone, the other, the painter who was there, and Blake was sort of like aimlessly, throwing his brush with paint at the painting, or his stencil. Is that what you call it? Stencil? I don't know. Easel. Thank you. Yes. Stencil. Nice. But then it was kind of hard what he was doing. And then, of course, we saw Blake, what he did on Tasha's season with the clay and making a penis. So I'm sure, given that the whole thing was black, like blacked out, basically, like, was he drawing people making love, or like?
Well, I mean, first of all, according to my PVR on my phone here, which is a cool technological thing that you can actually do, you can PVR stuff from your phone, which you
really
don't do, which is crazy. Tuesday, there is no episode, so it looks like it is just the Men Tell All tonight's episode. So that's something.
It's not both hometown in that?
It looked like it was just the one, the episode tonight. Who knows? Maybe perhaps the PVR is wrong, but it does not look like that.
Okay.
But yeah, that Blake painting, I didn't think it. Like, usually, it would be a bit more completely obvious that was blurred out. I thought it almost looked like the painting was just black.
Yeah, I was kind of sort of thinking this. No, I think that's not a hot take at all. I'm sort of.
And some people are wondering, is it just a black? So without knowing, because I didn't think it was blurred out. I thought it was just a black painting. And I'm like, and then they're like, I'm like, wait, okay, what's going, like, okay, why are they sort of reacting that way? And I'm like, I don't know the joke here. I'm kind of feeling a little bit lost. But the way I interpreted it was trying to figure out, because I was like, okay, what did he mean by this painting? I went to a weird place, kind of.
Oh boy.
Like, it represented, because, like I said, I'm not an artist, but I like to try to interpret art sometimes. I was thinking that he was representing that their love would be so strong that he'd reach places in her that she'd never felt before. It was so deep because it was black, it was dark, and it would be so deep inside her, spiritually, of course, deep inside her. That's how I was trying to interpret that, and then it's like, oh no, just like I blurred out. Oh, okay. Oops.
Wow. I mean, I didn't go that deep when I was watching this, but that's what we do here on the Bro Ceremony podcast is we dive deep. We analyze in ways that maybe you at home watching it with your rosé or your popcorn or your brie or your charcuterie don't see. And we want to give you a different opinion, a different perspective on what happens. That
was quite dark, my thoughts, where it went on that one. But I don't know. I was just like, obviously they're laughing about him, like you said, painting something. And yeah, like you said, it clearly must have been them making love or something like that, stick figures or something.
You went down a rabbit hole there, if you will, and I'm here for it. But so they have this, the portrait, and then they have the after cocktail party, I guess you could call it, or whatever, the after the night portion of the date. And Blake said the line to her, "I'm so in right now, not in love, but you just have to trust me." So I mean, kudos for Blake for being honest. Mm-hmm. But what did you think of that whole?
I mean, now we're getting to the final four here. I mean, it's kind of, that's why this whole process is flawed in itself, especially for someone who came into the show so late into the process, as they like to say. That's real. That's normal that he wouldn't be falling in love with her right away. But the way the show sort of frames it almost, and I'm sure should he eventually get eliminated here, that's what they'll be like, oh, I couldn't catch up to you. I'm not in love with you, blah, blah, blah. And then it's probably like, well, no wonder he couldn't be in love with her that quickly. That would be abnormal. But the way they sort of edit these things, it makes it seem like he's abnormal for not loving her right away. Mm-hmm. And I respected his honesty on that, because that seemed like a pretty quick to be falling in love with her. Don't you think?
I totally agree. And just a good Hamilton boy. I mean, he shows up, he's honest, he tells her the truth, and he goes from there. I mean, so good for Blake. We'll discuss Blake a little more in just a little bit. Andrew had the line where he mentioned to Katie that every athlete dies twice, which was like, oh. But his explanation of that made sense, is that, for those who play sports professionally or whatever, when that dream is finished, I guess you die because you're trying to think of your new stage of life. And at the time they were talking about what a life would be like and how Andrew's sort of on the cusp of shutting things down, hanging up the cleats, perhaps some would say. That was interesting.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, Adam, because
Thank
that
you.
was the question I wanted to ask you about that, because I wanted to turn that back on you,
Oh,
because
do
you
it.
also were an athlete,
Oh.
goaltender in the various hockey leagues, as it were. Did that happen to you when you had to hang them up, the skates, no longer being a goaltender? Did you find it was difficult to find a purpose in life for a while, or were you totally fine?
Michael, that's a great question, because when I quit my vulnerability, only one time was the term vulnerable used. So the first time in 3 episodes, vulnerable was used in this episode, which I was quite amazed by that this has happened. Anyway, to answer your previous question, when I stopped my goal of playing professional hockey as my life, I quit because I wanted to turn to the media. I wanted to become a broadcaster. So I think right after playing hockey, I flipped a switch and I went right into wanting to become a broadcaster. I wanted to tell the stories of those athletes, what they're like off the ice, what they're like off the court, what they're like off the golf course, sort of thing. So I personally didn't have that. And that was one of the big things in terms of, making a life-changing decision like that, because it's people who know me for all my childhood knew that I was a goalie and wanted to strap him on the NHL. But then when my focus shifted to life after hockey, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And so far, knock on wood, so good.
And one door closed, another one opened, Adam. And the Bro Ceremony podcast has opened, and it's a roaring success. Speaking of success and someone not having quite as much success, Mike decided he finally had his one-on-one date.
Oh man,
poor guy.
This was
oh boy. Speaking of awkward, and he got eviscerated online. Yeah. Awkward cuddling with Katie. There was some cuddling guru woman. What was her name? Cuddle Queen Jean, I believe her name was, which is an awesome moniker. Then Mike decided to tell Katie that she reminds him of his mom.
Yeah, while cuddling, scratching his head.
Oh boy, that is not the best play to ever make. I mean, I guess maybe it is. Maybe maybe someone would like that, but oh boy. What do you say about that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean the whole vibe of it, changing to PJs, I guess, and Mike had like a white shirt on. It was everything about it was just so weird. And then of course, a little foreshadowing. They cut back to the guys in the house talking about, oh, I don't know if he's going to come back. Yeah, maybe he'll come back. And then, Mike, give him credit, all class in his goodbye. Katie came back crying. I think he sort of knew it was coming. And then he was, all class, basically saying any guy would be lucky to have you. So there's some great guys left in the house. So, good for Mike taking the high road, I guess you could say, just all class all the time. There've been a fair amount of classy goodbyes so far in the season, I will say for the men, but Mike didn't make it, sent home. And here's where, so at this point, the rose ceremony about to get underway. Michael A got the rose in the night portion of the group date. And then Greg, of course, got the rose in the 101. So 2 roses left, 3 guys. And unfortunately for you, one of your picks, your final pick, Andrew S., on his way home. But what the soul-crushing goodbye that was. My God.
Yeah. And I really thought he was going to stick around and Justin would have been gone. But because again, like it just seems like, why is he necessarily there? They haven't really shown him a whole lot necessarily or whatever. Yep. So I don't know. That just seems odd. I saw somewhere online that people were saying, oh, Katie's just bringing Justin to the fantasy suites because she thinks he's hot. And then eventually she'll get rid of him. That was a theory that put forth by people online anyway. But yeah, Andrew left. Very sad. I thought he was definitely like for sure a strong contender. I would imagine, speaking of that, he might be a strong contender to be the next Bachelor. He does seem like a really, really genuinely good dude or whatever. And yeah, soul crushing that he left. But then he came back. I was like, I have a feeling he's going to come back. And then he did. I'm like, okay, here we go, baby. Come on. And then he said goodbye to her, a hug. She asked him, do you want to come back into the game maybe? And to his credit, he said no, because like he said, he always would have been thinking okay, I survived this one, this rose ceremony, but then in the back of my head, every single time, I'm not going to be good enough for her. So to his credit, he did bounce. And then when he left, again, no seatbelt.
No, yeah, the no seatbelt again. Well, I mean, what's up with these?
Every time.
Does anyone follow safety protocol? Like, come on,
Every
put the
time.
seatbelt on. But then what was weird, like they have the camera follows him out. The camera follows Katie going for the sprint.
Mhm.
One last kiss, perhaps. Like, I was everything about it was interesting. It was different. It was sort of once the rose ceremony ended. I mean, I wasn't watching live, I honestly had lost track of time. So I thought, oh, it's going to be over. Then it sort of kept going and going and going. It was a very unique goodbye. But Andrew S. looking forward, maybe Paradise, maybe the next Bachelor. Looking forward to seeing what comes to be in the Men Tell All, which we know is potentially tonight. Maybe the guide sort of, maybe part of the episode will be a Men Tell All. But Michael, what we do know, 4 men left for hometown dates. We have Greg, we have Blake, we have Justin, and we have Michael A. Of the 4 guys left, handicap it for us. Who would you say is the favorite? I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I apologize for that.
Oh no, the reason I was reacting like that is because I almost feel like, I don't know, like I know, there's favorites like, Greg and Blake, they want you to think they're favorites, but quite honestly, I don't know. Like Justin doesn't seem like that would work.
No, yeah.
The Michael thing, I love Michael. He's an awesome dude, but it just feels like it's got to be a tough, obviously very difficult family dynamic to be, trying to, or getting engaged with her that quickly. It seems like she'll probably pass on him probably. Greg, again, I suppose he probably is the favorite to win, but there's something off to me with him. Maybe I'm wrong on that. And obviously Blake seems to be more simmering passion. There's more simmering passion with Blake, but it's safer with Greg, I would say.
Okay.
For her. So I guess ultimately, I don't know. I guess ultimately Greg is selected by her in the end here, but it almost feels like a situation to me that she's going to maybe it's a hot take, going to end up with none of them.
Wow. You know what? I'm curious. Yeah. There were rumors before the season began that the season got cut short or the taping was quicker than they thought they would. So what I am guessing is that some sort of spicy meatball is going to occur tonight, next week sort of thing, because this season's almost over. There's only 4 guys left, 4 guys vying for Katie's heart in their journey, in their quest to find love. Michael, it all gets underway at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. Who will Katie send home next? What's going to happen to the Men Tell All? We'll have much more on the next edition of the Bros Ceremony podcast. But before we sign off, couple things. First of all, you are the host of the H Dog Pod. Fill us in. Who's your latest guest?
Amazing timing. Just I took the drink is when you finished your question there. Awesome. My good buddy from back home, Derek Stashik, episode 69 of the H Dog Pod.
Oh.
And we waxed poetic about a lot of things back in the day. I don't know if you ever knew, he and I had some boxing matches in high school.
Oh, he's the boxing match guy. I knew you were a big boxer back in the day.
I wasn't even really, for whatever reason, I did box with him a couple times. He was like 6'4", 220 in high school.
Oh, so he's like,
I was like 6'1", 160 or something like that. So it was not a fair fight, but I held my own with him. And we talked about that. We talked about, the barrage in the garage, the fire in our prior, and then hopefully the static in the attic will be the 3rd boxing match, which was supposed to happen in high school and never did happen. But yeah, we talked about that and a lot of the NHL draft.
Yeah.
Senators. He's a big Sens fan. So I asked him about, would you want the Leafs to win the cup ever? And he said, hell no. I respect him for that. Because a true fan should hate the other team's rival, just like a lot of Leaf fans should hate the Habs, but they didn't, which was weird. And we talked about the Seattle Kraken and the expansion process and all that. So very, very entertaining episode for sure of the H Dog Pod with my buddy Derek.
You can find episode 69 of the H Dog Pod on iTunes or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Now, Michael,
I say now one final thing to you, Adam.
Oh, the tables have been turned. Yes, guy, bring it on.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming you'd be fine to say this, but maybe not. Breaking news: something significant happened in your life recently that was a joyous occasion. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm an uncle. I'm assuming that's where we're going with this, or
Yes. No. You shot 70 during a round of golf.
You shot 72 on the weekend. I shot 75. I don't know. We were going to talk about that, but yeah, I'm now an uncle. It's very cool. My sister Sarah had a baby 8 days ago, so I got to meet Poppy Russell.
Love that name.
Poppy Russell is going to be a big Bachelor fan. Probably not, but we'll see. Because I know you know Sarah, you know Mark, my sister, and her husband. Not the biggest Bachelor fans, but maybe we can sway them. And congrats again. I know you're an uncle as well, and I was about 99% sure. I just a little hesitation there. No, it's a very exciting time. Yeah, thank you for asking.
And were you emotional when you held Poppy for the first time? Were you describe the feeling?
You know what? I wasn't emotional when I first found out about the baby arriving on Earth. I was quite emotional. I was very emotional, and thankfully we were not recording our podcast anytime around then, because I would have cried.
Oh, well, that's too bad. I was hoping that maybe perhaps I would get you crying right here. You'd shed a tear or two.
But no tears shed. Looking forward to Poppy making an appearance on this podcast. I mean, my dog Kaylee's made an appearance on the Bros Ceremony. There's always a dog on this show because Hound Dog, you're here. So there's
Dad also made an appearance on the show as well.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to have a myriad, good word, of guests here coming up with different family members, dogs, pets, ex-girlfriends, perhaps. That might not be a good idea. But now, before we sign off, Michael, do you have any final thoughts?
Oh, dang. So now that's so funny how last episode you didn't ask that question when I actually did have final thoughts, unlike the few previous episodes where there was. And now this one, I wasn't even thinking about any final thoughts. So every time you throw a curveball at me, I appreciate you doing that.
Yep.
I guess the only thing I would say is I'm not going to reveal who it was, but okay. I could have sworn in the Men Tell All that's going to be happening. I looked at my PVR, by the way. It is tonight's episode. It seemed like there's someone who's currently in the season, the final four, seem to be at the Men Tell All, which they've done before. They've, for whatever reason, spoiled who was gone from the final four in their teaser for the Men Tell All. I am almost certain there was someone, potentially anyway, I think in the preview. It was hard. It was really hard to make out. So, but I'm like, I think they may have spoiled something else, which they love to do, which if they do that, pretty stupid.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because past guests on the show, Taylor Lucas, has talked about how she studies the coming up the promos for the rest of the season like game tape. And so what I think might happen tonight, and I have no idea, honestly, I think they'll have some hometown portion, perhaps. Maybe that person will be sent home and then they'll go to the Men Tell All. Maybe. Do you think that's a possibility, Michael? I guess, you know what they say, Michael? Only time will tell. It all gets underway at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. Bros Ceremony Podcast. We're now 24 episodes in. A milestone. 24 episodes. Michael, you'll love to see that. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Appreciate all the love and support from fans all around the world. For Michael the Hound Dog Harrison, I'm Adam Scully. We'll see you next time right here on the Bros Ceremony.